Hey guys, it's Ellen Brock, freelance editor. Today I'm going to talk about how to find your voice as a writer. This was by far the most requested video. So many of you requested it, I'm not even going to list out the names. So I'm really excited to let you know my top tips, and hopefully it will help you out to create a more distinct style and voice for your writing. Before I get into my top 5 tips, I have a few really obvious tips that I'm not even going to count because you guys probably already know this. The first is that you need to read a lot of novels. You will never develop a strong writing voice if you don't read. It is very important that you read, that you get a sense of the expectations of different kinds and different styles of voices. So reading is super important. The other thing is that you definitely don't want to try to steal someone else's voice. This is not so much because it's wrong or because the other writer will get upset. It's more because you will never be able to maintain that voice over the long run. The voice will fluctuate. It won't be authentic to you, and more likely than not, you will get frustrated trying to imitate another writer's voice, and you will lose interest in your novel and stop writing. So I'm going to provide 5 tips on how you can create a strong writing voice that is authentic to you, that isn't too difficult to write, and one that really represents who you are as a writer and what you want to convey to your readers. Tip number 1 is to write with intention. So many writers focus on making the sentences sound nice and clear and smooth, but they don't focus on what they want to convey emotionally, what they want the readers to feel. If you write with intention behind the tone that you want to create with your writing, you will have a much better time developing a unique voice. Do you want to write with an exciting tone, with a creepy tone, with a thrilling tone? There are lots of different kinds of tones your writing can convey. And you can use specific word choices and phrasings that help to convey that message, that emotional message to the reader. For example, if you want to have a creepy tone or a scary tone to your novel, you probably don't want to compare the clouds to fluffy pillows. And if you want to create a fun, uplifting tone to your style, to your voice, you probably don't want to compare a mountain range to the edge of a serrated knife. So you want the word choices, your similes, the things that you put into your writing to reflect the tone that you want to convey. Tone is a huge element of voice. Tip number 2 is to experiment with point of view. Some writers are so comfortable writing in a particular point of view that they will not try any other perspectives or any other way of approaching the novel, so they always stick with one type of point of view. It can be really helpful to experiment with different types of point of view because sometimes your voice will work better in one type than in another type. This is actually really common. It's fairly unusual for writers to sound equally high quality in both first person and third person. Usually most writers will be better at one over the other. So trying both first person and third person, as well as both third limited and omniscient, can really help you to find a style that works for you. Another reason that writers don't experiment with point of view is because they believe that the genre they're writing in has to be written in a particular point of view, but this is not true. You can publish in any genre using any point of view if you do it well. So don't try to write in a point of view that does not work for you because it will destroy your voice. The wrong point of view can make a huge difference between a great voice and one that really struggles. Tip number 3 is to edit. So many writers believe that there's some sort of supernatural quality once you find your voice, that you can just sit down and bang out your scenes and they're perfect the first time. This is not how it works. There are no published authors on the planet who can write with a perfect voice the first time. Editing is key to creating a strong and really unique voice. If you want your voice to shine, you will have to go through multiple times, change the wording, improve the wording, replace weak words, replace weak or sloppy similes. This is absolutely a necessary part of the writing process. So if you write your scenes straight through and you read them back and you look at them and you say, oh, my voice doesn't sound good, it's not what I want, you have to edit it to be what you want. It is not going to be perfect the first time. I really emphasize this because so many writers will give up because when they write something straight through, it doesn't look publishable, but it doesn't look publishable for most, if not all, authors. Everybody needs to edit and go through their work and improve it. It is not going to be right the first time. So you can really improve your voice by just spending a lot of time on editing. Go through multiple times and keep working until you get the voice that you are looking for. Tip number 4 is to know the basics. Sometimes voice can trump basic writing rules, but it pays off big time if you know what the basics are. This goes beyond just grammar and into things like cliches and passive speech and present versus past tense. You need to know the basics of how to construct high quality sentences that read nicely and that don't fall into the typical kinds of traps. There is really no simple way to learn all of these things. For some people, it just sort of comes naturally, and for other people, they need to put more active effort into learning it. But taking time to read different things, writing blogs, writing books, learning about how to structure a sentence, how to avoid cliches and passive speech, these things can make a huge difference in the quality of your writing. And sometimes what reads as a poor voice is really coming from a poor understanding of the basics and the basic mechanics of how to craft nice sentences and clean, clear paragraphs. Tip number 5 is to relax. It takes a long time to develop your writing voice. It's not going to happen right away. But the other reason that you can relax is that writing voice is not as important as most people think that it is. There are a ton of best-selling authors who do not have anything particularly unique or interesting about their voice, but they have nice sentences, they're clear, it's easy to follow, and the story does the rest of the talking. If you can craft really strong stories and your writing is competent, you will have a pretty good chance at success. A super strong, snappy, modern-seeming voice is not a necessary component. As long as you can create nice, clear sentences and you understand the basics of how to avoid things like I talked about in tip 4, like cliches and passive speech. If you understand the basics, you will probably have a voice that works well enough to be successful if your stories are strong. So sometimes focusing more on the voice is not really very productive because not everybody needs to have a super strong, unique, or interesting voice. You just need to have a voice that works. The voice needs to be functional. It needs to tell the story. It does not need to be anything particularly special. I really hope this video gave you a better idea of how you can develop your voice and also helped you relax a little bit about voice. And I really would love to see more writers just spend the time to edit and to improve and to bring out their voice and not have such high expectations of themselves from the get-go, because you really are not going to get it perfect the first time, and editing is so important. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions or you have any requests for future videos, you can post them in the comments. I'm still taking questions for the Q&A on Friday, which I'm going to break up into multiple parts. So I hope that you guys will like and subscribe and share my videos. It really helps me out. Have a good week, guys.